In episodes 4 through 6, a majority of the story takes place on the planet of Dakar, the asteroid-ringed planet seen in Star Wars, The Force Awakens and Star Wars The Last Jedi. Greenham Common, a World War II-era Royal Air Force base, was used as a real-world location in England by the production. For the planetary views of Dakar and its asteroid belt in space, a number of industrial light and magic crew who worked on The Last Jedi came back. Visual effects supervisor Scott Pritchard wanted to pay tribute to the original ILM model makers who famously used potatoes as background asteroids during Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back's iconic asteroid chase scene. So the environmental supervisor, Guy Williams, got some potatoes, shot camera footage, and then made CG versions. The largest practical set built for Season 2 was Gorman, a type of space city that fans haven't really seen much of in the Star Wars universe. Production designer Luke Hull decided to focus his team's efforts on building a plaza in Gorman, on the backlot of Pinewood Studios, just outside of central London. After constructing the plaza, they began to build out city streets, which quickly filled the backlot. Star Wars often tends to do either small rural towns, or if they are big cities, then they're futuristic big cities. And Gorman is a big city, but it has history, rich tradition, and culture that has been there for hundreds of years, says Hull. The space city was influenced by places in Italy like Milan and Turin for their affluent textile culture. Gorman is Hull's proudest achievement of Season 2. It wasn't just about building a set with historic architecture. It was also about building a storied culture like the weaving of precious webs harvested from the planet's native spiders. Showrunner Tony Gilroy has mentioned how they built an entire aesthetic, language, cultural identity, and even a national anthem for Gorman society. These elements ultimately laid the groundwork for the design of the set's physical appearance. And speaking of groundwork, we have to talk about Mina, the new planet created for the show. This planet is an agricultural one in which Cassian and his crew hide from their enemies. In the story, the planet has been terraformed to grow one type of crop to feed the Empire, and Hull was tasked with choosing the crop. He eventually chose an ancient rye grain that can be sown in England. Location manager Rich Hill found a good field not too far from the studios, in which they convinced the farmer to grow the grain instead of wheat for a whole year. And thanks to the Hollywood strikes which shut down production, the team had to improvise with the ever-growing rye field. The Greens department cut sections of grain out of the field and preserved them within a soundstage at Pinewood Studios for about 6-7 months. Early on in the season, Andor flies the TIE Avenger prototype to a rendezvous point in a dense jungle. Fans may have figured out that this jungle is on the planet Yavin 4. When Cassian escapes aboard his ship, we see a familiar group of Massassi temples in the wide shot. These structures first appeared in the original Star Wars film and were last seen in Rogue One. For the scenes with the TIE Fighter, Hull's art department built a full-scale practical ship for use while filming on set. The ship itself appears in several scenes, so the interior and exterior had to be built. The construction of the ship comes apart into 3 pieces and gets transported around. One element of Andor that is unique to the show is how the storytelling manages to show us a lot of the characters in their everyday domestic life. Tony's writing is so different from anything that's been done in Star Wars before, says set decorator Rebecca Alleyway. She and her team had the chance to help develop the characters and their domestic way of life. They got to design and decorate the interior of the houses these characters lived in, and she was most excited about designing her first Star Wars kitchen. She and her team relied on original references and what has been done before, with the small glimpses we have seen of domestic life in the universe, and then drew more from the characters and their backgrounds. Even food was created for the show. Prop master Ben Wilkinson mentioned how home economists Catherine Tidy and Olivia Somari created various foods that were edible yet looked unique to the universe of the franchise, like the fondue we see earlier on, but with a jelly-like bug. Oscar-nominated costume designer Michael Wilkinson returns for Season 2. When he was first hired for Season 1, his goal was to create a language for Star Wars that felt grounded and real. With Season 2, he aimed to use costume details to help create nuanced and 3-dimensional characters. We applied our thinking from Season 1 to Season 2, which was that everything had to look the way that it did for a reason, not just because it looked cool or it was Star Wars-y, Wilkinson says. Thanks to Gilroy and his talents of being an incredible storyteller, the scripts were rich in detail about the different characters and their looks that helped shape the costume design of the season. The show also saw the addition of several new planets, cultures, and aesthetics only heard of on the page. Let's look at some of the costumes and the ideas behind their designs. Andor's TIE Fighter pilot costume is, of course, iconic. When we reunite with him at the top of the season, He is hijacking a ship from the remote Imperial testing facility. Wilkinson wanted to create a special look for Cassian based on the classic TIE fighter costumes fans love. He added a red shoulder detail to show this isn't your average TIE fighter, almost like a new prototype. The team even designed 10 different versions of the costume to reflect how tattered and beaten Andor gets throughout the scene. And for the iconic character of Mon Mothma, played by Genevieve O'Reilly, she has the most costume changes for a Star Wars wedding, with a total of 6. Each of the dresses were designed by Wilkinson and defined the direction of the Chandrila aesthetic overall. There's always that wonderful balance between what's going on behind the public face. To hint that in her costumes, we always had many layers on so that she can reveal and conceal, he says. Each of her dresses helped bring different aspects of the Chandrila culture to life, but her final layered golden dress received praise. At the end of episode 3, we see her lose herself. She dances to the music with her emotions at an all-time high. Wilkinson and his team worked with the choreographer of the dance to ensure that the camera would find her through the chaos of movement and fabric as everything descends into chaos around her. It's not just a unique visual scene, but a very metaphorical one, which goes into a lot of the designs. Deidre Miro, played by Denise Gough, is only ever seen at work as an Imperial bureaucrat. In Season 2, we get a glimpse into her personal life. Wilkinson worked closely with the actress to uncover her background and get to know more about who she is as a person. She gets home. She's probably super relieved to take off the armor of the ISB highly tailored uniform. But, in a way, she just sort of changes into another version of that. Deidre only ever wears the same colors too, although the clothing is more comfortable. She manages to keep this rigidness of structure and formality in her private life, and thus she only ever wears ivory and black the whole season. And in designing costumes for the main antagonist, director Orson Krennic, played by Ben Mendelsohn, Wilkinson really enjoyed the process. He had to reinterpret the character's costumes since we saw a lot of his character almost a decade ago in Rogue One, a Star Wars story. He took his iconic silhouette, which shows his high ranking, and made variations of the cape. Since we see Krennic in more indoor settings, it was more appropriate to ensure the fabrics were for indoor clothes rather than outdoor. For his evening party cape in one episode, the team used satin fabric that had a flow to it, with Mendelsohn noting he felt like Elvis.
Is of great interest to the Empire.
The wonderful details by the costume departments and production design teams in their crafts have elevated the second season of the acclaimed Star Wars series. They also managed to leave plenty of Easter eggs for fans of the franchise. Did you manage to catch a few of them? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching.